Hey everyone, welcome back to the finest place for Chaos Zero Nightmare content. I'm Poros, and today I might have the hottest endgame take that you'll hear at least all week, if not all month. So let's jump right in. So, right now, I've got a screenshot up of the last Hyperspace Basin Dimensional Twilight endgame mode in Chaos Zero Nightmare. Now, if you haven't gotten to endgame or haven't played this mode too much, then you might not know what this is, so I'll just give a brief explanation here. In Basin of Hyperspace and Dimension of Twilight, you've got a series of 10 fights. Each of those fights has two different sides, so you need two full teams of three without any crossover characters in them to complete, and you have a turn limit in order to get the most stars every stage, and then every set of 3 stars you get throughout the various stages, you get rewards. So you can see in my clear of this, I got 27 out of the 30 stars available. I'm missing one on stage 9 over here, and I am missing one on stage 10. Now, the reason I want to talk about this is because it is a fairly controversial inclusion in Chaos Zero Nightmare, because while this might fit in some other turn-based games, in Chaos Zero Nightmare, where there's a big emphasis on survivability and attrition in the roguelike chaos modes, in here it's all about speed, speed, speed. If you can't clear the waves in 12 turns or less, you don't get full rewards. And for a lot of teams and a lot of team compositions and a lot of decks that might be really, really good in chaos, they don't necessarily have the time to ramp up and deal the amount of damage they would do in an end game chaos fight against an interior boss as they, have to do in these fights here, where there might be 3 waves every side, and therefore you are allotted an average of 2 turns to kill a wave, and some teams that's just not doable. Now, one of the things that's supposed to help you in these endgame modes is this support buff that you have on screen here, the plus 50% damage of targeting attack cards once per turn. This buff is usually something that is going to be universally a good thing, but most strongly benefit the most recently released unit. In this case, this was the launch Dimensional Twilight. Haru was the launch character, and she is someone who wants to throw a big ol' attack, usually once per turn, and deal a bunch of damage with that one attack. And so this plus 50 damage of targeting attack cards once per turn, that's really, really good for her. In addition to that, all of the 10 sides or 10 stages of Dimensional Twilights had one side that was weak to justice damage, which is the damage type that Haru is. This is sort of colloquially known as the end game shilling, where units that have recently been released have special catered endgame modes to make them overperform and entice you to pull them. And a lot of players think that this is a form of FOMO, which it is kind of, and think that it's, unhealthy for the game. I think when done properly, and I think this game does do it somewhat properly, at least what we've seen from this first basin of hyperspace dimensional twilight rotation, I think it's a good thing to shill your new characters. And here's why. Your new characters are going to be weak, assuming that you have been a good little boy and been upgrading characters. Because as anyone who's hit level 50, which is the account level point where you get your uncaps to the final like stage, you get all of the potentials unlocked. You unlock all of the extra highest difficulties for your farming stages. You unlock all of the like level 60 stuff for your combatants and partners. That's when you realize just how expensive upgrading characters is in this game. And if you're trying to upgrade a decently large roster, you are not going to have the materials to upgrade a character when they come out. And let me show you exactly what I mean by that. So, there's this guide that I have for Yuki. She is the upcoming Order Striker who is set to launch in the next day with the launch of Season 1, Phase 1. And this is sort of a guide to all of the different materials that you need to, fully max her out. So you need a bunch of these XP mats, these promotion mats, and then these potential mats, and a whole ton of units. And then if you want to get her partner, it's a whole nother batch of materials and units as well. Now, I, for one, I've been doing a little bit of pre-farming for Yuki, and I've been neglecting other people. So if I do, say, one run of, something to get some, combatant promotion materials, this one isn't for Yuki. This one is actually for Nia, who is going to go on my Yuki team as one of her supports. You can see I get 5 of the big guys, and then 12 of the medium guys, which then converts over into 4 more of the big guys, so I get 9 of them total. Yuki requires, 52 of these, then 47 of the mediums and 8 of the small ones. I would have to do, 52, carry the 1, blah, blah, blah. That is 10 runs just to get, like, the big ones. Then for the medium ones, it's probably another, 2 or 3 runs. So, 13 runs. You get 5-ish of those runs a day with the coffee boost. So that's 2 days just to get these. Then, a whole bunch of other days to get these. And then potentials at level 40, which is not the most optimal level of farming, but it's, the one that I'm at in my current account progression, having not used any of my Tears of God yet to refill stamina. We can jump in and we can see exactly what my account looks like to have prepped for Yuki. So let's go ahead and do that. So here we have my Chaos Zero Nightmare account. This is my storage, and so as you can see, I've got the 155 medium crystals, which is 1 more than I need. I've got 36 smalls, which is 2 more than I need, so those are squared away. And then I only have 101 of these big ones. I need 335 more, or I need 335 total, so I need 204 more. And at my current rate of acquisition, I get 6 of them per 60 stamina. So I get, on average, 1 every 10 stamina. So at 204, I need 2,000-ish stamina to actually get the rest of these I need. That is, almost like, 8 days or something like that. Then there's also all of the money I need. I actually have a good chunk of change. I've got 4.7 million. I haven't upgraded any of my partners to level 60 because I can't yet. If I were to make Yuki my very first level 60 character and upgrade all of her promotions, I would be able to afford it, and then I'd have something like 500-ish credits left over, which, if you referred back to the infographic that I just showed previously, does not leave me enough to then level up her signature partner to 60. So even with all this, I don't have enough to level up both parts of her all the way. And that's, again, without me spending any resources on leveling up any of my other combatants to 50. And I haven't been leveling everyone. I've left a bunch of people at level 1. I've only upgraded 7 characters to level 50. I sort of initially upgraded the 2 main teams I had to finish up that beginner's guide mission, and then I also upgraded Veronica because she's probably going on my Yuki team as a sub DPS slash draw engine. And now I'm also trying to upgrade Nia a little bit as well to get her as my second support for Yuki. And even only, getting her up to 30, I have very few potentials maxed out amongst these people. So I've got, Kalipe's has a little bit, she's my most maxed out, but you can see Veronica, I've got like almost nothing. Hugo, I've got almost nothing. Mika, I've got almost nothing. Beryl, again, very, very little. Very little for Tressa, very little for Ray, like nothing for Nia. Like I have not been just blowing resources out the bank, and I'm just barely going to be able to get Yuki to where, she could be quote unquote endgame ready. I haven't done any gear farming for her either. So I'm going to have to do that as well. If you were someone who wasn't doing all of this pre-work and you had actually gone ahead and were upgrading the potential of your characters, you'd have nothing for Yuki. She'd be left completely in the dirt. And that's where some of the endgame shilling can be a good thing, because it lets you actually develop your roster without then losing out on the endgame when the new character comes out. She's going to get that boost from the element weakness. She's going to probably have some hyperspace basin support buff boost. And so even if you had been a good boy and spending all of your mats wisely to upgrade the characters that you're using currently and not just hoarding them away like a dragon because you're a simp like me, then you'd be able to use Yuki and get some amount of value out of her even without all of those upgrades, because she's getting boosted by the end game. Now, because so far, at least what we've seen, there are plenty of other characters who can take advantage of these buffs too, I don't think it's that bad to have these kinds of specific buffs. In the hyperspace basin rotation that we just had, where we had that 50% targeted attack buff once per turn, and again, the Justic weak side, Beryl was really, really good because she would charge up one of her abilities, it would go boom, it would blow people up, she had the right damage type, she was a free-to-play, accessible character that could do this. And it is my suspicion that there are going to be plenty of, free-to-play characters who are going to be able to take some advantage of that support buff as well. And that's why I think these support buffs, when done in a way that's generic enough that other people can take advantage, can actually help people play with the shiny new character that they just pulled, even if they don't have the resources to have them fully built out to the level of the rest of their teams. And you might disagree with that, and if you do, let me know in the comments why you disagree and what you think they should do instead to, help make new characters fun and exciting for endgame, even if you don't necessarily have all of the resource ready for them. And if you did like the video, then go ahead, drop me a like. Feel free to subscribe as well, and hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when new videos like these come out. I'm going to be trying to make a lot more of them in the future, especially as we move into the very, very exciting Season 1. And so with that, I'm going to sign off for the day.